Duber.
Sean's mic was working great before the show
Sean.
started, and then it crapped out right at the end there.
What have you done, Sean?
Oh, hold on.
Oh, we hear you.
Wait.
Yeah, we hear
Hello?
you loud and clear.
Okay,
Beautiful.
wait. So what's going on? I thought it wasn't working.
No, it works perfectly now.
Do the intro, Sean.
No, wait, hold on.
It's my intro. It's my welcome.
No, let's do it again. What do you say? Should we do it again?
And 3, 2, 1.
Heyo, welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer, and Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. We're being produced today by Lawrence Benedetto.
Oh!
Hey, I'm so glad we're not in the studio. I'm so happy we're not there.
But I'm here.
I know you are. And again, like you were trying to get us to be there, and we're not there. I got to watch Mr. 3000 in my home, and it was fantastic. On today's CHGO White Sox show, we are going to be talking about Vinny's most recent article. He talked about three managerial candidates that have emerged for the White Sox job per Jon Heyman.
6 technically. I wrote about 6, but it's a very "what have you done for me lately" world, right? Isn't it, Sean?
No, for sure. You know, and like kind of the catches. You know, here are the new guys. You know, we you know, no offense to Grady Sizemore, but at this point he's a has-been. Sorry. We're going to be talking about those 3 new managerial candidates, and then we're going to be starting our new inaugural. Herb, I know you're very specific about what words. It can't be like reigning or defending. So This is inaugural Friday flicks.
Correct. It is going to be a great one, and I think Vinny suggested this one because I don't think Sean or I had seen Mr. 3000 before today.
This is one of my favorite baseball movies, not because it's good, not because I like it, but because it is just the most ridiculous concept imaginable. Bernie Mac plays for the Brewers. Why not?
I bought it. You know, I bought it. And honestly, what I bought less was the whole reason why there's a plot to this movie. And I also felt like this movie could have just been 30 minutes.
There's not much of a plot to this movie, Sean.
No. We'll get to it. Let's get into the 3 new names that have emerged as managerial candidates for the White Sox manager open position. It is Phil Nevin. It is Will Venable. And it is Daniel Descalso. Which gentleman should we start with? Which gentleman do you think is the most intriguing of the bunch?
I'd probably have to say Will Venable because he seemed to be on this track for some time now, and this maybe would be his first, not first chance, but this might be the moment that he gets to step into that managerial job. He's interviewed for a lot of openings over the last few years, pretty much ever since his coaching career started, which started with the Cubs in, I believe, the 2018 season was his first year as a coach. 2017, he was in the front office there with the Cubs, with Theo Epstein's Cubs. And really since that moment, he's been interviewing for managerial jobs, hasn't taken one. And interestingly, last season, he decided not to interview for any of them. He, I believe, was desired by the New York Mets. He said, no, pass. He is the associate manager in Texas under Bruce Bochy. And Jon Heyman went as far to describe him as the seeming heir apparent. So obviously Bruce Bochy came out of retirement, managed the Rangers to the World Series last year. Will Venable was right there next to him, but Bruce Bochy is obviously of an age and might be coming to the end of that tenure just because of that, right? So who knows if he wants to leave, but who knows if Will Venable wants to leave. He might be sticking around in Texas like we saw a guy like Joe Espada, right, who interviewed for all those jobs over and over again, never got one. You wondered why. And all of a sudden, he just wanted to stick around and manage for the team that he was already employed by in the Houston Astros. So I think Will Venable is the most interesting just because so many other teams have found him interesting as a managerial candidate. And maybe this is the right moment for him to step into an opening. And the White Sox are reportedly interested.
Yeah, Will is very interesting. Out of those 3 that we have named, he is the only one that I would actually consider talking to in a long-form interview to get the job. Now, I usually like my managers to be on their second job or third job because you don't want to be learning on the job while doing it because we already have that. We already have a bunch of people in higher up positions learning on the job. And so that being said, he would be one of the home run hires if you can get a player like that, or a player / manager like that. He knows a lot. He's been with 3 organizations that are respected. As Vinny said, the Cubs to start off with under Theo as Epstein, firstly as a front office guy, then he went onto the field. Then he went to Boston. I mean, we know all about their analytics department, how they've rebuilt their minor league system and how they do things out there. And of course, with Bruce Bochy, you both get the old school version of stuff going on, and Chris Young at the general manager. You can, even if he wants to do like Joe Espada did and stay there in Texas, I hope that he wouldn't turn down an interview chance with Chris Getz just to see and get some of the information that he might have that Texas does, how they operate, like we were talking about before, opposition research, and get some stuff so you can use for your own team going forward. Because I think that more than likely, as Vinny said, and so did Jon Heyman in the article, he's going to stay there. He's the manager in waiting. Bruce Bochy is not getting any younger, and eventually, within 5 years, I think Bruce will step down, and Will's young enough to just wait that out and just take that job. But I would want him just to, sharpen his skills and maybe see something out there. Maybe the White Sox do speak to him with like the players, like a bunch of other players around him, surrounding him that played Major League Baseball, that understand what it takes to win a game through 162. So that is the only intriguing one. The other two, Descalso and Nevin, no, I'm good.
A couple of things that I want to hit on with Venable quick before we maybe move on. Number one, what is an associate manager? The White Sox don't have one of those. They haven't before either. Judging by the somewhat descriptive list of duties that the Rangers media guide listed, seems like a lot of scheduling. Maybe it's taking some of the more modern day responsibilities of a manager that are a little bit more, from like you might consider from the business world kind of thing, off of Bruce Bochy's plate, right? The idea of making the daily schedules and getting everybody organized, kind of being that manager, but in more of a real world sense than a baseball sense. And then also notably that he and Boston ran spring training. So this is a guy who maybe has a little bit more experience in the duties of a manager than someone else who hasn't been a manager before. One more thing. What's notable about Will Venable compared to some of the other folks that Chris Getz has brought in? Think Josh Barfield, think Brian Bannister. His dad was a longtime major leaguer. Max Venable played in the big leagues for a long time. Obviously, Brian Bannister's dad, Floyd, pitched for the White Sox, and Josh Barfield's dad, Jesse, from Chicago, was a great major leaguer as well. Again, these are not qualifications, maybe just a little curiosity more than anything. But as we kind of look at the kind of people that Chris Getz is surrounding himself with in the White Sox Brain Trust, we point to former players a lot. Now you got some guys stacking up too who maybe have been raised in baseball, let alone just played the game themselves.
I like the Max note. I didn't know that about Max Venable, so I think that's pretty damn cool. So nice note there. Did Phil Nevin? I feel like just Phil Nevin's entire family has been playing baseball. I feel like there's been a Nevin all the way back to the 1800s. The Nevins
offspring certainly are playing baseball.
The Nevins were beating the Cleveland Spiders back in.
There's only 4 3-generation baseball families, I believe.
And can you name them?
The Harristons,
The Bells.
The Bells, as Lawrence said.
Which Bells? Albert?
No.
Or George?
Buddy.
No,
Buddy Bell.
Buddy Bell, Gus Bell. The Boones, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the fourth one I could not get. It might be more than those, but those are the ones that I remember. But the Harristons have like 5 players, starting with the dad or the grandfather, who was the first, I think, one of the first black players in African-American player in White Sox history.
Nice. I'll try to figure out the full 3rd generation families. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Sam, you're talking about Sam
Bells.
Hairston.
Yep.
Sam Hairston, and then Jerry Hairston Sr.,
Mhm.
and then his kids, Jerry Hairston Jr. and Scott Hairston.
Yeah, and then I believe Jerry Hairston Sr.'s brother also had a cup of coffee in the league too. So that makes 5 of the 3-generation family members. And I don't know if Scott and or Jerry have any kids down the way, but they would be the first if they did.
I don't know. There might be a Jerry Jr. But I guess it would just be 3rd. But yeah, the Bells, Boones, Colemans, they were the only 3rd generation family of pitchers. Casey, Joe Jr., and Joe.
Oh, okay.
The Hairstons, the Kessingers.
Don?
No, Don, Keith, and then Gray Kessinger just debuted in 2023. And then the Schofield Worths, Ducky Schofield, Dick Schofield, and Jason Worth. Worth is the grandson of Ducky Schofield and nephew of Dick Schofield. So
very cool.
There you go. All right. How did we get here?
Talking about second generation families.
All right. No, very cool for Max Venable there. And it is pretty just notable as well. You have Grady in the mix. You have Nevin in the mix. You have Venable in the mix. You have Descalso in the mix. Chris Getz clearly has a type. We can even throw Schumacher as well. I think, Buck would probably count him as a baseball player, but I don't think he actually reached the major leagues. And we have no insight if the White Sox are interested in Buck Showalter, but it does.
Clayton McCullough was a minor leaguer as well.
Oh, that's the other guy. Yeah, he was a minor leaguer. He never made it to major leagues, but it does seem like he does have a thing for major leaguers. Venable, I don't think is going to take the job. When you have advertisements for Lockheed Martin in left center field, I think that there's a pretty good reason why the Rangers have had success, and you have a very similar relationship, I would think, with Chris Young. I think they both played together with the Padres. They have a long-term relationship. And if you are doing all the things a la, pulling the strings for Bernie at weekends at Bernie's, I think that Will Venable is likely just going to be the next Rangers manager. If you're turning down New York, why would you come to Chicago? I don't see the reason. You have more money in Texas and less media attention. Shout out to DLLS. We got more media coming out, or DLLS. But I don't think Venable is going to be attracted to any job that, doesn't involve big payrolls and quiet media.
Now, I know Vinny wrote about it in the article, but the Phil Nevin one is a head scratcher. I mean, 2 years in LA, 22 and 23.
Year and a half. He took over for Joe Madden in June. Yeah.
Well, can I jump in? I think
ahead.
Maybe it's just, Chris doing a solid. This is a guy that hasn't been around, but, I just want to get his name out there. It's a way to circle it. Maybe it's just doing guys a favor. Even Descalso, maybe he doesn't think Descalso is the guy. He might have an idea of if Skip isn't the guy, I'm going with Grady. And this could all just be, gaining information, or just being like, oh, well, Descalso, we'll give you an interview to give you, our first interview or whatever, to just kind of give a player a boost up.
Hey, Phil, you managed Shohei Ohtani during his last MVP season with the Angels. How'd you do that? Break. But Phil,
hey, Clayton McCullough, you managed him on his last MVP season. How'd you do that?
Like Vinny wrote, there's familiar people here with the White Sox coaching staff with Phil Nevin. So maybe that's the speculation there. But his year with the Angels in 2023, his full year, remember, they traded for Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez because they're in the pennant race, then had a precipitous drop-off in August and September. Now, as I always say, it's not really the manager's fault that this happens, but they just got good players on their team, and really couldn't do anything with those players, and didn't, go to the next level or even come close to the playoffs. I think they released them or waived those guys within a month of having acquired them. And of course, we got Kai Bush and Edgar Caro out of that. So I'm in for Phil Nevin for doing that for us. I know that was more Perry Manassian, but I don't see the fit there, except for he's a former player.
And Descalso's fresh to being a bench coach, just got to become a bench coach with the Cardinals in 2024. It seems very similar to Grady. Grady has more managerial experience. I'd be surprised if Descalso got the job above Grady. So we could probably put Descalso and Nevin below Grady. I'd put Venable above Grady, but I don't think Venable's likely. And then I put Skip.
I've got more to say about both these guys, but I know we are hitting an ad break, so I'll do it on the other side of the ad break.
And I know you have a lot to say about beer.
I always do, Sean, and I have a lot to say about it being 80 degrees outside today in the city of Chicago, which means it's still summer. Go get yourself a summer shandy. Nothing goes better with hot and wonderful summery weather than a summer shandy. Leinenkugels' terrific mix of the flavors of a lemonade and we beat beer. Oh, so good. But maybe you're like my wife and you look at the calendar and you're like, it's not summer anymore. It's October. That's a terrible impression of her, but she's mad whenever I say it's still summer. So go get an Oktoberfest. Leinenkugels has one of those too. Keep the variety rolling. Get a honey vice, get a berry vice, a lakeside cherry. I love the sunset wheat. Go up to Wisconsin. Get yourself a Leine's original. No matter what flavor of Leinenkugel's you go with. The variety is fantastic. The taste is fantastic. Flavor life's simple moments with Leinenkugel's. It is the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leinie.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO. Or pick up Leinenkugel's pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugel's, flavor the moment. Celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes.
And it is we want to make this very clear. We are sponsored by Chicago Sports Network. We are not CHSN. We are sponsored by CHSN. CHGO is sponsored by CHSN. We are not CHSN. Just saw a ton of people that were like, just because it's 4 letters, they both start with C. People thinking they're sports companies. They're blending the two. But CHSN, Chicago Sports Network, is the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. Shout out David Hall. They're also Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core. And they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our 78 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch Bulls, Hawks, and Sox games all season long. All right, Vinny, you had more to say. You're ready to burst with Daniel Descalso and Will Venable and Phil Nevin facts.
I wanted to jump in, and then it's like, it's 1450. I can't jump in. I gotta wait. I
want to hear your thoughts about these people, but doing more impersonations of your wife. So, what does Claire think of Will Venable?
She would say, "I don't know who any of these people are. I don't watch baseball." But I do. I do watch baseball, and I can tell you that I understand where folks are coming from with the reaction to Phil Nevin, but I think it's very unfair. Herb, you said earlier in this show, you prefer people who are maybe on their second job, on their third job. The idea that a guy steps into an interim role and then gets only a 1-year deal to, all right, Shohei's going to leave, make it happen. And you can't happen because guess what? It's the Angels. They never make it happen. I don't know how much of that you can put on him. Folks from afar obviously see a guy like that and say that's the entirety of his body of work, right? But Phil Nevin, even though we all played, or at least Herb and I played with him in video games back in the day, has been retired for kind of a while. And he spent, I think, 7 years as a minor league manager, AA level, AAA level. Think where the White Sox are going to be. A very player development focused rebuild is what they're in at the moment. A guy with that type of resume might be somewhat appealing to them. Somebody who knows how to kind of build guys up while also trying to win a game at the same time. It is a skill, and maybe that's kind of a skill that they could be looking for. You mentioned, Herb, 3 current White Sox coaches, and who knows whether it's Phil Nevin that gets hired or anybody else, how the coaching staff shakes out. But 3 guys currently on that White Sox coaching staff were on Phil Nevin's coaching staff in 2023 with the Angels: Drew Butera, Marcus Thames, and Matt Wise. So at the very least, what an insight Chris Getz gets into what kind of manager he would be. You've got not just the guy telling you how great he's going to do a job. You got 3 witnesses basically that are going to be able to tell you that right there too. So that's an insight. And I think that's important to remember, is that these guys have that body of work beyond just what you see in the other dugout when the White Sox are playing them. What I will say about Daniel Descalso, though, is he doesn't have that, because you're absolutely right. This is his first year as a coach. The one thing to bring up, he, like Skip Schumacher, played for Tony La Russa on the 2011 World Series champion St. Louis Cardinals. So if we're talking about that being a huge connection for Skip Schumacher, it's also a huge connection for Daniel Descalso too. Just remember that, however much weight you're putting into that. And then the last thing I'll say with Descalso is he spent the 2023 season as a special assistant in the front office of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Who worked in the front office of the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2023? White Sox assistant general manager Josh Barfield. So there you go. Those are my things to say on Phil Nevin and Daniel Descalso. Thank you so much for allowing me to share with you what I spent 2 hours reading in various media guides earlier this morning.
That's good stuff. And I get your point, and that's good. That's a good counterpoint to mine. I would also say that Phil Nevin, I think, would be one of those coaches hired to be fired type of thing. Like, and would he be fine with that? Like, I was thinking about this job is going to be, as you're talking about, mostly development, and it's not about wins. And when it comes to the time of 3-4 years down the line, you have a losing record the whole time. And it's understood they're going to have a losing record. But as we've seen with Ricky Renteria, both sides of town, after a while, it's like, you got a limiting factor. And the limiting factor is already baked in. Like, you already come into this job knowing that it's not going to be wins and you're going to be judged upon development. And then when these players develop, are you going to be given a chance like Brandon Hyde has been? Like, go through all the sludge to get to the other side? Or are you just going to be hired for these 3 years, 4 years, just to get bounced so they can have a more attractive person? Because we're talking about Will Venable and other players. Like, he's turned down other jobs because he wants to stay there in Texas. But I'm assuming if the right job came up, a job that he can see himself growing into, he would go. And that's what's one of the reasons why I don't think he's coming. And another manager that is worth his salt probably wouldn't be coming to the White Sox because he knows this is a long project and he doesn't want to get fired on this job just because he knows that the wins won't be there.
But then again, I mean, like, you could be getting some security. If you know, Venable might not want to step into the team with a $300 million budget, at least talking about the Mets here, because there's so much pressure, because you could be fired if you have a bad year. With the Sox, he probably believes gets like, hey, you know, we're committed to this and you'll be here for the next 5 years until we figure all of this out. Vinny, you really did talk me into Nevin. Before we get into that and my thoughts on that, Kevin with the $5 super chat, we really appreciate that. Kevin, thank you very much. The Sox were so confident in the process of hiring Grifol just 2 years ago. What, if anything, will change this time around to avoid Grifol 2.0? Well, the first thing and most important thing, that interview was conducted by Rick Hahn. So different interviewee, different process, and different person running point there. But also, if we're looking at the two guys that Rick Hahn has wanted to hire, Grifol didn't pan out. The other guy was AJ Hinch. So it's not like, you know, he went 1 for 2 in baseball. Yeah, it's 50%. It's not bad. I think there's other manager hires, but I'm just talking about the two most recent.
And what I will say specific to that question is that the White Sox are in a totally different place. While I think Pedro Grifol showed a lot of things that and then have been reported, you know, that are maybe didn't make him the best for this situation, the situation is different. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if they hired Pedro Grifol brand new this year, that he would lead them to through the rebuild into the World Series. But think of what a wildly different job assignment that is for Pedro Grifol or anyone like him right now versus trying to manage that 2023 White Sox clubhouse with the expectations that they had, with the problems that they had, and then, you know, being given a team that was not built to win in 2024. The expectation and the situation wildly different this time around. So even if this process yields a similar result in a hire like Pedro Grifol, he's stepping in. That person is stepping into a totally different situation and might find himself succeeding at it in a way that Pedro could not succeed in the situation that he was given.
I'm just trying to think of a player or one of these managers that would be the most disappointing to White Sox fans, because first blush, yeah, the Daniel Descalso one too also doesn't, you know, get anybody hyped. But what is his bona fides? Bench coach of the Cardinals, and the Cardinals haven't been the Cardinals as of late since he's been there. It's not his fault, because the Cardinals ownership and their team and their heart and soul has been gone for the last couple of years with Yachty and Wainwright retiring. But like, if that was to be the ending hire out of the 6 candidates that Vinny has listed on the article he wrote today, to me, that would be the most disappointing. But also, as Vinny has pointed out, Sean has pointed out, you're not trying to win the press conference. You're not trying to win public hearts. You're trying to get the best candidate out there. And I'm just worried about the thing that's going to happen if the White Sox, as I said, don't find a candidate that they want. They just have to downshift to a candidate that wants this job. And a candidate that wants this job, I'm going to have a little pause with. Automatically. You know what I mean?
Worst case scenario is Grady Sizemore, right? Like, to me,
Is that the worst case?
Well, like, I don't think they're hiring Descalso, and I don't know, like, if they're really wooed by Descalso, he must have some crazy baseball mind. But like worst case is Grady Sizemore, because then we just hear the narrative like, oh, this is just the guy down the hall. It's not really, going outside the box. It's the guy that's just the easiest to hire. I think people would just think it's very similar to Chris Getz being hired after Rick's being fired. So I think that would be the worst case scenario. I don't really care who's managing. This team's not going to be competitive. What are we looking for them to really get out of a team for the White Sox in 2025? Like, I don't think they're going to be competitive, even if Branch Rickey was the manager, right, guys? I just think that. Oh, well, I lost it. Go ahead, man.
Well, I'm just saying that's exactly the point, right? Is that the idea that every manager is, the perfect guy for the team, if that makes sense. Like, just because Joe Torre is Joe Torre doesn't mean Joe Torre is the best manager for the 2025 White Sox, right? Just because Bobby Cox is Bobby Cox or Joe Madden is Joe Madden doesn't mean that they're the right guys for this situation.
Or Tony La Russa is Tony La Russa.
Sure. But yeah, exactly.
I know that just happened to our team.
Right. But I mean, you've got people saying like, oh, don't they want to get the best manager? Don't they want to get the best manager? No, they want to get the best manager for them right now. I mean, it is not I think you guys are speaking to the idea, or Herb, at least you are, that like, oh, all the best managers aren't going to want to come to the White Sox. Well, like the White Sox don't need a manager who's going to win the World Series tomorrow. The White Sox need a manager who's going to win the World Series after helping them develop all of these players over the course of the next 3 or 4 years. And that's not what White Sox fans want. They want to win tomorrow. Totally understandable. But the idea that they would have to settle for whoever decides they would want to deal with this terrible job. No, there's going to be a lot of people who want to do this exact job. And the White Sox have to find the best one of those people to hire for this gig.
And at least Nevin, again, you kind of talked me into him here. I think there's a ton of bona fides that you bring up. Obviously, the past minor league manager experience is impressive. The Angels, although he didn't have success there, they know how to spot talent, right? I mean, they got Shohei Ohtani, they got Albert Pujols, they got Josh Hamilton, they got CJ Wilson. I mean, these are all Hall of Famers, right? But he was the bench coach to Joe Madden. That's the same thing with Brandon Hyde. Phil Nevin used to work in the Yankees system, who has all of the, analytics people. I mean, like he probably has an understanding of how analytics should work in a dugout. So if Nevin is promised, hey, you get to work here for 7 years, he might really, settle into this job. And this might be the perfect, time for Phil Nevin to be a manager. So I don't dislike the idea of Nevin. Descalso, again, just seems too green. Venable doesn't seem like it's going to be the right place, especially if you have Texas waiting. And if they have another bad year, I mean, that just might be next year. It might be, at the end of 2025 in September, Bochy steps away and Venable's the manager at that point. So I think if Skip is interested, I think Skip is likely their guy, but I think Phil Nevin, because it is a major league manager position, could end up being their guy. I think it's a guy that is in development like Clayton McCullough. It just might not be, if McCullough's not interested, if Skip's not interested, I could see Nevin becoming their guy. Any other thoughts? Because we got Mr. 3000 on deck.
Yeah, to answer your earlier thing where you're saying that maybe if the White Sox end up with Grady Sizemore being the worst case scenario, only if it happens like Chris Getz when he got hired, where it's just, I'm not interviewing anybody else. That guy's the best. If they go through all these interviews and talk to all these gentlemen right here, and out of that, they truly believe that Grady is the best, I will disagree, but at least they went through the vetting process. At least they got enough information and made their own choice for a guy that they want. Remember, this relationship, and I don't know who was speaking about it the other day. I'm losing the person's name off the top of my head, where you got to have some type of symbiotic relationship between the general manager and the manager. It's got to be the same type of thought process. And yeah, these guys might be better for the job if this job was in a vacuum, but Chris Getz is the general manager. Who can Chris Getz get along with? Who can Chris Getz further his plan to, and that person say, yes.
Partner. He used the word partner. That's very important, Herb. It might be the most important thing.
Could just be Grady. I mean, there's already a rapport. It's tough to build rapport, folks. All right, let's take a break. We'll let you know about our friends over at Game Time. We've built a very nice rapport with our friends at Game Time, a longtime sponsor here at CHGO, and they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm going to a show on October 17th. You can come to Talia Hall. And come see MJ Lenderman and the Wind on October 17th.
I want to go to that.
Well, go to Game Time Picks. Use code CHGO. Terms apply. Come on, Lawrence. They got great curated deals that makes it find the best price on great seats over at Game Time. And again, it's curation made easier so you can save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. And all-in pricing, you can toggle this feature to show the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. You have the Hawks back in action. You have the Bulls back in action. You have the Bears in action. So go check them out. And when you are buying tickets, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Who?
If you are following our socials on CHGO Sports on Instagram and on the YouTubes and on the Twitters, you can see that the CHGO Bears crew is in London right now. And if you've seen their post, you know that they're having an awesome time with some of our diehards out there, people who glommed on. And when there was an opportunity to go to London, see the Bears game, and also hang out with our CHGO crew, they jumped upon it. But if you have a little FOMO right now, you're looking at all these pictures like, oh, man, that'll be a great time in London, but I didn't have the time and or money. There's another chance for you to hang out with the fellas. You can make the London, if you didn't make the London trip, you can join us in Phoenix, Arizona to see the Bears go head-to-head with the Arizona Cardinals on November 3rd. Our trip package includes a 3-night stay in a 4-star Phoenix hotel, Q&A with Bears alumni, all-inclusive tailgate party, round-trip transportation to the game, and an upper-level ticket to the Bears versus Cardinals game. Reserve your spot today at truefantravel.com. That's truefantravel.com now. Limited spots available. With the CHGO, you get podcasts and live shows every day from every team. Post-game shows, premium written content for all members at allchgo.com. 20% off of all events, dope merch for all teams. You get a free t-shirt when you become a member, and like the t-shirt I have on right now, the CHGO Sky, which you probably can't see, but it's a great shirt. And the members only Discord called our CHGO Lounge. So become a CHGO diehard today.
Bam, bam, bam. Bam, 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 bam. That's an Orange Juice song. And Orange Juice is commenting, agree with Sean that it could be Nevin since he's probably used to using the young ones like Ohapi, Nato, and Shanuel. I appreciate anyone with the name Orange Juice and anyone who agrees with me. So thank you very much, Orange Juice. You guys know that band, right? Rip It Up. Okay.
No.
Everyone listen to Rip It Up. It's a great 80s song.
I know Orange Juice Jones.
I don't know.
Rain.
Okay. Well, I'll listen to
saw you and him.
All right.
Walking in the rain. Nothing.
I'll listen to Orange Juice Jones after the show, and you listen to Rip It Up by Orange Juice. All right.
Okay.
They're Scottish. Also want to give a shout out to the third generation families that we didn't mention that do have White Sox affiliations. Roger Bossard. Come on. We're slipping up here. Emil, Marshall, Gene, Roger are all family of groundskeepers, our groundskeepers. So shout out to Roger keeping up the 78 over there. Took all the grass from Guaranteed Rate Field and put it over at the 78. You know, that's probably the biggest pitch that Jerry's going to say. Guys, we have no grass at the field. We have a grass at the other field. I need money to build this field.
Sorry, guys, can't play baseball here. There's no grass, but there's grass over there.
He's just really pulling out the daily.
They're just changing.
Rip it up Miggs Field.
They're just changing it up.
Boo. We also have the Rickies, Branch Ricky, and then Branch Ricky Jr., and then Branch Barrett Ricky.
What about Branch Ricky Renteria?
Oh no, we didn't have Branch Ricky Renteria. The Veeks as well, or Mike Veck.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, you got Mike Veck, you got William Veck, they got Bill Veck. So shout out to the Vecks, and obviously the Comiskys, Charlie Comiskey, J. Lewis Comiskey, Grace Comiskey, Dorothy Comiskey Rigney, and Chuck Comiskey, and even John Rigney was a player. So there you go, the Comiskys, a lot of White Sox.
One more that I'm thinking off the top of my head. I think we just talked about it the other day.
The Carries.
The Carries.
Yeah, no, that was
Harry Carey Sr., Jr., and the third.
That one was a little bit lower because it's a fourth generation. I think they're the only fourth generation one.
Chip's got a kid.
Chip's kid is announcing for some
The
team
A's.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
A's.
A's,
Yeah.
okay.
He's splitting it with Jenny Kavner.
Okay.
Chris Carey, 24 years old.
He's not Harry Carey Jr.
He's Harry Christopher Carey the fourth.
Oh, the fourth. Okay.
Yeah, but he's going by his middle name, Chris.
Smart.
So
There's-
yeah, so
There's no like fourth name that you can name your kid, not like Skip is Junior. and
yeah, they
Chip
went
is-
Harry, Skip, Chip, and then Chris. So I guess the next one's just going to have to be Carey. So then you have Harry, Skip, Chip, Carey, or Chris Carey. Anyways, you guys want to talk about Mr. 3000?
Let's do it.
When you're
Always.
when you're looking to be in the seats of Mr. 3000, you can obviously head over to Game Time, but you can also call a 414 number. I found a thing from onmilwaukee.com. You could be in the stands for Mr. 3000. They actually went out and just had fans during break times. They were giving away stuff. They were doing all kinds of things to keep people here. They were giving away free refrigerators. They were giving away toasters during the night to try to keep people here. And this is Bob Uecker talking about our Vandenberg, who was talking about the jaunt to schedule and make Mr. 3000. What do we make of the film, gents?
It's not
Well,
good.
Yeah.
I
Go
thought
ahead,
it was
Vinny.
fine.
It's
I mean,
fine. It's
look-
very fine.
One out of 5. Let's just start there. What is it on a 1 to 5 star rating?
Among baseball movies or all movies?
Let's
Baseball
just do-
movies. Let's do baseball movies. That's not because
Among baseball movies,
Well-
it's a solid 3, if not 4.
We got to
I'm
make we have to make like a what defines a good baseball movie then? Like what gets a 4-star for a baseball movie? I guess that's just the next 30
Firstly,
minutes.
for me, baseball, like the baseball is correct. It looks all right. It looks like you're, really doing the baseball justice with some consultants that teach these players how to throw a baseball, hit a baseball, look the part at least. And I mean, for the most part, they looked ish. I mean, Bernie Mac, you could tell he never played baseball in his life, but that's besides the point. 2.5 stars for me on the movie because of the whole thing was kind of hokey. It was like a romantic comedy mixed into a baseball movie, which I'm fine with because I'm a fan of Angela Bassett and Bernie Mac. And they had a lot of superstars in this one. Like I said, they had a grandma from Rounders who in the movie is called Boca because he wears a bunch of tracksuits. He was cool.
Superstars.
Paulie Cicero from Goodfellas.
Yeah. Paul Sorvino like spoke 5 words in the movie.
Awful character. Horrible character.
As the manager.
Disagree.
You disagree?
I like him. I'm confused from a baseball standpoint as to why he's the manager of the terrible Brewers team for
9
a
years later.
decade.
A decade.
Yes.
A decade. This team couldn't make the playoffs to save its life. Paul Sorvino, bring him back. Another year at the helm. He doesn't even speak. He doesn't speak to any of the players. I liked him as a character and a device in the story, but he is the worst manager baseball's ever seen, apparently.
Bernie Mac, I thought the whole point was that he was going to be the manager. Though he was like, the press love me. I don't think he was ever said that he's the manager, but like he's talking to the pitcher on the mound. He's leading the whole ice cream singing in the dugout. Like I thought Bernie Mac was the manager.
Yeah,
It would have been a better ending to the movie had he succeeded Paul Sorvino as the manager, I think. Yes.
Right.
because he can actually talk 5 words. That was so weird. I just imagine like the person trying to get Paul Sorvino into that movie. He's like, yeah, Paul, just sit there. One time when you're going to go up to the umpire, you're going to really yell at him. But other than that, collect the check, brother. He's like, bet money. Sounds good.
I'm also surprised that he was never in The Sopranos.
He had important things to do, like filming Mr. 3000.
Right. I mean, like, while Sopranos, the best mob TV show or episodic series was ever going on, Paul Sorvino is moonlighting as the Brewers manager. I don't know. I mean, what do we think of the idea that, he's Mr. 3000 and then they take away the 3 hits because it was a counting error? Kind of believable before computers.
The days before Baseball Reference, man. I mean, like, I love that, like, it was like the big statistical library is like behind the scenes at the Hall of Fame. And like, now anyone could just Google it whenever you want.
Took
Like
9 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, come on, guys. Makes me want to know, are there just a bunch of errors in Baseball Reference? How many players actually have 3,000 hits? Who knows?
We should check Derek Jeter's immediately.
He needs to come back and play for the Yankees. He's 40. He's got to be 47 years old now, right? Looks, he's in much better shape than Bernie Mac, but
Yes.
you know.
And the realism of the movie, that was good. Like the fact that he was a dick. He was a horrible person,
Awful.
horrible teammate, and the writers took it out on him. Now, real life, if you get 3,000 hits and you don't do steroids or close to 3,000 hits, Stan Ross would have been in the Hall of Fame no matter how many writers didn't like him, because that's a historical number where I don't know if any 3,000 hit member that didn't have a steroid stink to him or gambling, Pete Rose, didn't get in the Hall of Fame. So yes, that was real. Like, they should hate him. He was a terrible person that quit in the middle of their pennant race. And maybe that's why Paul Sorvino got another chance, got another 9 years. Like, you would have won the pennant if you had the best hitter in baseball who's getting 300 hits or 3,000 hits, and he just quits that day, ghost, and yells at a kid.
And let's talk about Mr. Big. What does Mr. Big do? We were having this before the show. Is he the GM? Is he the owner? Is he the Crane Kenny, the Brooks Boyer? What the hell is his job?
There's no way of knowing. So Mr. Big thinks it's fine to bring Bernie Mac back to play for the Brewers at the end of the season because it's going to goose attendance. Oh man, we're going to sell out every game if people are here to see Bernie Mac try to get 3 infield singles. But like, that's not what a GM does. Like, a GM would be and at the end of the year, he's like, oh, you can't play on the road, Bernie Mac, even though you got the team playing so well. You can't play because we need those sellouts at the end of the season. The GM would be all about getting them to third place. He'd be like, oh, what a fantastic finish for this team at the end of the year. We don't have to go sign any players now because look at how great this team has come together. Bernie Mac gets a lifetime contract because he's making the team play well. Like, instead, it's like all this conniving of like trying to just get standing room only people in there. Like, what is his job? He has to be like the team president overseeing, and like those little lackeys that were complaining, they had to be the GM. They had to be, right?
Yeah. Because the general manager wouldn't care about attendance and how many people are coming, and also would never have entertained Stan Ross coming back to baseball 9 years later at all.
Correct.
Because firstly, it's a 9-year layoff. Secondly, he was a douche, and what is he going to do on a terrible team? And he wasn't well liked. I mean, he left pretty much in the middle of a pennant race and yelling at a kid. So it was like, what? So, why are everybody coming back for this guy?
And why do the fans like him? He literally assaulted a child.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then when he sees the guy in the bar is like, yeah, you treated the fans like dirt. Like, but then they'll 40,000 people just show up to love him. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The thing my biggest problem,
boss.
I think my biggest problem with the movie from a baseball realism standpoint, other than apparently there's only like 5 players worth mentioning on the team. Like, where were the other positions? We didn't know any of the outfielders. But
that's not true. T-Rex is an outfielder.
Oh, T-Rex Pennybacker is an outfielder. Sorry, T-Rex Pennybacker, who's my favorite name in any sports movie of all time. T-Rex Pennybacker. But this was much too short of a time, right? Like, Bernie Mac is a September call-up. Like, the season is basically over. Like, they're like turning their season around in 11 games. Like, why didn't this start like after the All-Star break or after the trade deadline at the very least? Like, it's too short of a time for like Bernie Mac to have this huge, like, conversion to being a good guy. And T-Rex Pennybacker is converted to be like a good team leader. Like, that's all happened in like 2 weeks.
Well, and it's very much White Soxian. I mean, this guy has just loyalty, out the wazoo. This guy's had the job for 9 years, just decades on decades. And their whole goal is to get to third place. I mean, that's the whole David Sampson joke. Like, let's be middling so everyone thinks that it's only up from here.
To be fair, that is a thing in sports movies, and a pretty like semi-pro 4th place. They're going for 4th place. Like,
right.
Like
that's a good bit.
It makes sense. It's a good bit because that makes them the ultimate underdogs. Like, they're not going to win the championship. Like, the whole thing with Moneyball is like, if you don't know anything about the A's and baseball, you'd be like, oh my God, Moneyball is about the team that turned into a champion because of Brad Pitt. And it's like, no, they just went on a long winning streak at one point.
You think Scott Hatteberg is the whole reason the 2002 A's won anything, and they don't show Miguel Tejada, who's played by Royce Clayton, or Barry Zito, or Mark Mulder, or any of the guys worth a damn on that team. Also, is Bernie Mac just like, it doesn't seem like he's, like Jim Thome out here, or like a power hitter, right?
No.
Like he is the Luis Ariz of first baseman. I guess that's Luis Ariz.
Yeah, he was that one home run. He kind of surprised himself. He's like, "Oh, hey, I got a little pop here, finally!" And everybody's surprised. Yeah, I would think in those 3,000 hits, he probably got only like 50 home runs because all his hits were all infield singles. Like the one 3,000 hit he initially got was just right back up the box to the pitcher. Like that, I get it because it's comedic and he wants to hit the pitcher because he has so much good skill. But yeah, that first 3,000 hits should have been a home run or something a little bit better than a bunch of infield singles. Like all of his hits were infield singles.
Penny Baker's slugging percentage, I didn't actually add it up, but now I kind of regret not doing it because I think he had like probably 6 at-bats, and I think the worst he hit was a double. I mean, we saw 4 homers and 2 doubles. I mean, this guy is a stud. He's got like 47 bombs. It's a great joke that it's like, it's a shame no one's ever on base for him. I'm like, that's the 2023 Luis Robert Jr. experience. It's just solo homers on solo homers.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Brewers, over the month that Bernie Mac was on the team, only played 3 different teams. They played the Astros like 12 times in the final month of the season. They played the Braves at one point, and then they were at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Oh, I think they played at fake Wrigley Field too.
Wrigley.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. So we saw them play 4 different teams over the course of a whole month. What is the schedule where they're playing the Astros at home all the time?
Like exclusively. I was like, what? I know other major league ballparks probably didn't give him permission to film there, but you can act like you're at a different ballpark somewhere else and just make it look as if it was another ballpark.
They got Cincinnati, right?
No, I mean,
well, they got an aerial shot of it at the very least. The biggest mistake from a baseball standpoint in this movie was the opening scene, which takes place in the 90s. 1995, I believe, right? The Brewers are playing in Miller Park in 1995, and they've got all the players wearing the old jerseys, but it's very clearly Miller Park. So like the dugout just has the Brewers' new logo on it. I believe the Bat Boy is just wearing a modern Brewers uniform, and like all the fans, like there's just fans wearing regular Brewers, like current present day Brewers hats, and they're playing the Braves.
No, the Red Sox.
Oh, they are playing Boston. You're right. Good call. And so that was before Interleague when they were in the AL. They were playing. Okay, so that one they got right. But you're seeing like just multiple eras of logos, but in the past.
And I will say too, like fairly decent accuracy with them playing the Red Sox, and then also the line, we're not in the American League anymore. You can't play DH, and that they have to wait for September call-ups. Like at least they're going to wait for the expanded rosters to wait for this publicity stunt. So I kind of like that touch. But yeah, it felt like this movie could have just ended 30 minutes in. I mean, like he could have just got 3 hits, goodbye, boom, done.
And also,
you have to have him turn into a good guy.
Really, it wasn't that good.
And the journalistic integrity or lack thereof of Angela Bassett. Come on now. Sleeping with your subject. It's rule number 1. Come on now.
Cheering in the press box. Come on.
Ridiculous. Now. Just absolutely ridiculous. But the thing they did get right, which I see in baseball movies all the damn time, some of them that we will talk about, the hidden ball trick. When you do the hidden ball trick, the pitcher has to be off the mound, which this guy was in the movie. And I don't know why the base runner is getting a lead. He's off the mound. Like he can throw you out right then. And so I love the fact they got that right. But the continuity thing that I will swear up and down about is he does the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, which is filmed in Burbank, California.
Thank you.
Then he shows up in his own bar in Milwaukee that same afternoon. Like it's not even like flight. It was like,
and they have. It was an off day. I was going to say they have a game that night, but they don't. It was an off day. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, and they wanted him 9 a.m. in California, so that would have been 12 Midwest. So like what? He at earliest he's getting on a plane at like 10:30. and then it's like a 4-hour flight. No, 10, LA time. So then it's a 4-hour flight. You're getting back at like 7.
Night. Yeah.
It was definitely, I mean, like, unless it's like, I mean, it is summer, so maybe you get like summer night light, but it seemed like 4 p.m. lighting in there.
Yeah, I have a big problem with continuity. They could have just did that a little smoother, like had a trip out to Anaheim. It's like, oh yeah, I'll go up there, do the interview, come on back, we'll have practice, and then have Angela Bassett interview me.
The It Takes Two monologue was sick, where they have the double play turn and Rob Bass and the other guy from It Takes Two plays. That was awesome. That was very 2003. I got hyped for that part. Can we talk about all the video games? Unless you want to talk about more media appearances, either Peter Gammons or Tom Arnold saying "bitch" over and over again. Just very out of place.
Was that what the Best Damn Sports Show period was like?
Yes.
I never watched it.
Yes.
It was just like crude screaming all the time?
Yes.
Wow. I'm glad I never watched it.
Awful.
No one else did.
Very glad that Tom Arnold's not around. But I did like Wilbon and Kornheiser doing the faces. Do they still do that? Do they still do the faces on a popsicle stick?
No one
they're
knows.
Probably never even in studio anymore. All right. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about was the Keegan-Michael Key appearance, and then the baseball video games. And first, the easiest thing to make fun of: Bernie Mac pitching Hall of Fame baseball as a video game. Just wait until MVP Baseball 2005, where there are legends in the game. Bernie Mac pitching something that is just already in the game.
It's already in the movie. T-Rex Pennybacker is playing MVP Baseball.
What a horrible entrepreneur. He does not know the market. Just ask your teammate. He's right there. T-Rex Pennybaker, who is apparently on the cover in this universe of MLB MVP Baseball 2004.
He's hitting 50 homers a year. He should be on the cover.
Yeah, right. But when they do see the footage, I am convinced that it's Bill Hall hitting that homer in MVP Baseball 04. They're in the locker room. I swear, not only is it Bill Hall because it's got the number 2, but I think they don't have the original call on there. I think they pull a Hawk call and faintly pull it over. I need to listen to this or maybe download the movie and boost the volume, but I do think that Hawk Harrelson's "you can put on the board" is in there. I don't know.
I like the point that you guys brought up before we started filming, before the show, about the announcers and which announcer they could have gone with.
Right.
I will let you guys do that instead of me taking the.
Well, so Dick Enberg is the announcer, is the Brewers announcer in this fictional Brewers universe, the Brewerverse, if you will. Dick Enberg's the announcer, so good for Dick Enberg that he gets to be in this movie. But the most famous announcer in a baseball movie of all time is Bob Uecker from Major League. Bob Uecker just is the Brewers announcer in real life. Sean, you were just quoting Bob Uecker talking about the filming of this movie earlier today. Just make Bob Uecker the announcer.
You don't even have to spend the money to fly Dick Enberg out. Bob Uecker's there. You're filming in July.
He'll walk from downstairs.
Right.
He'll just get in the elevator.
I guess now I'm thinking they probably have to shoot when the Brewers aren't home. So maybe Bob's got radio duties. But, can't take off for filming Mr. 3000. Come on, it's a major motion picture.
I'm assuming his major league contract probably said he can't probably do similar baseball movies. I'm sure that there's a conflict of interest if he does Major League 1, 2, and 3, and then does Mr. 3000. But yes, if he's just playing Bob Uecker, technically he's not Harry Doyle. He's just playing himself.
He's just Bob Uecker. Yeah, I don't know. I think they just probably either couldn't afford him or Bob Uecker just didn't want to do it. The first call has to be to Bob Uecker. I don't know.
So question for you guys. Is this movie actually funny? Because I did chuckle a couple times. The one thing that I would say is funny is the workout montage. I like when he's doing Pilates and he says, "I feel like a dolphin." I thought that was funny. And then when he's terrible in the spin class, but then he becomes good at it and he's like, doing all the moves with all the women taking the spin class. I thought those moments made me laugh.
The movie is not funny to me, but Bernie Mac himself, just by his aura and his presence, to me is always funny because I remember his jokes and how he delivers a line. But in that montage you're talking about, I noted that the version of YMCA, not the Village People. just a cheesy version. Like, did you not have parents for this? How was this budget? Come on now. Give me the real Village People. It's a terrible song, but you can just buy the song in the rights and put in your terrible movie.
If you're gonna play it, you know. I don't think it's funny. I liked Bernie Mac. I think he was good. Angela Bassett's a good actress. I won't say that she's not, but I didn't like her involvement in the film necessarily.
She's not good in the movie.
No,
she's good in other movies.
Fine as hell still, but whatever.
His sidekick Boca is pretty boring. Just there's nothing.
I didn't like him at all.
Awful. Just
not
horrible.
Funny. Like
he's supposed to be a sidekick, and he's like all he had to say at his retirement is like, yeah.
Well, I think he's supposed to be a man of few words. I think that's like the joke, but I didn't find it very funny. And also, like at one point, he like admits that Bernie Mac sucks as a dude, but remains his best friend, but doesn't explain why. I didn't get
because
that.
I think he just is mooching off Mr. 3000. This guy has
he's just a bartender.
I think so.
Yeah, he's like a lackey.
I think he just is on his payroll. I don't even know.
I liked the whole ice cream truck thing though. I liked that. And maybe it was because it was the lone Chicago shout out in the movie, but I liked that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there was anything else that was like funny.
They tried to make the Japanese guy who couldn't swear funny.
Awful.
I didn't think that was very funny.
Clearly speaks English.
Yes.
And very well.
Clearly. Yes.
Yeah, right. And the only thing that he gets wrong is swear words. I'm not buying it.
Also, the only pitcher we see pitch for the Brewers in the entire movie. He's on the mound in every scene. He's never not pitching.
Yeah, and those two guys arguing all the time or competing with all it. They try to make that funny too. It wasn't. It was just annoying to me. Every time I would see him, like, ugh, get out of here, Skillet.
No wonder Paul Sorvino doesn't say anything.
He just wants to go home. I think this was. Did you give it a 3, Vin?
For a baseball movie, yes. For a baseball movie, I'd give it a 3. There you go. It's a 3. For a real movie, no. But for a baseball movie, it's a 3. Because I think we'll find doing this that a lot of sports movies are not good.
Yes. 2.5 for me, Sean. 2.5 stars.
For a baseball movie.
Yes.
I'll go with 3 for a baseball movie, 2 for a real movie. But it was watchable. I understand why it plays on TV just kind of in the background. We're going to wrap up the show. But what's next? Herb, do you want to make the next pick?
Yeah. And if we're going to do a movie, I would pick a movie that is a baseball movie and a good movie by itself. And it's White Sox focused. 8 Men Out.
All right. So you're not going to be on next Friday's show.
I will not. I mean, I could theoretically.
We'll do it the Friday after.
All right. So
either way,
next Friday, we will be doing 8 Men Out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that Halloween? Is that Halloween weekend?
It's the day after. No.
It's the
25th.
Yeah.
The first would be the following one. All right. So maybe on November 1st we'll do Field of Dreams for
perfect.
The day of the Ghost, or what is it called? It's the
Dia
day
de
after
los
Halloween.
Muertos.
Yeah, but no, but like I think it's I'm thinking of a feast day. I think
All Saints Day. I think is what
I think
it
I'm
is
thinking
there,
of All
John.
Saints Day. All right. Well, I mean, those people are ghosts. Anyways, that's going to wrap up the CHGO White Sox podcast. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. Man in the middle is Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. I'm Sean Anderson, and thank you very, very much to our guy, Lawrence Benedetto. Will likely include Saint of Second Chances in there as well. So thank you for that recommendation, Fat Hipster. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll be back on Monday at 4 p.m. here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.